Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Windmaker, and we're here for another lesson. I know at first this was probably kind of fun and exciting when this was all new, but now it's getting kind of old, but stay with me. We got a short lesson today. I painted my nails for this video. Today we're talking about range. So in our last lesson we were talking about domain, and we said domain is how far left to right are we going, and we were dealing with left and right as your x-axis, so we were looking at the x values. Today we're going to be looking at the y values when we talk about range. So again, for domain, just to summarize, we always started with our left point. So this is our smallest number that our graph went to, and then our biggest, and we put a comma between them, and then we put either like a parenthesis maybe, or we put a bracket. It depended. Maybe they were both parentheses, maybe they were both brackets, right? But we had to decide based on those endpoints. Now today, for range, it's gonna be similar, but instead of going left to right, we're gonna go bottom to top. So we're staying consistent with this, and that we're going small number, big number, right? This is like as small as our graph goes with x values, and then this was as big as our graph went with x values. But now we're looking at small, okay, could be negative numbers here, and then the top would be as big as our graph could go, so big to small. Again, we're going to use a combination of parentheses or brackets. Maybe they're both brackets. Maybe we have one bracket, one parenthesis, but again, we're going to be focusing on the y values today. So if you need a quick refresher on the brackets versus parentheses here, if we have open circles on our graph at a point, or we have the infinity symbol, that's where we're going to be using parentheses, okay? So anytime you see an open circle on your graph, so we've got some sort of segment that ends with that open circle, that means we don't actually get to include that point. We get to get really close to it, but we do not include that point, and that's where we have the parentheses. Versus if it's an endpoint that's closed in, we do get to include it, and we will use brackets. But again, we might have a mixture within one domain or one range. So let's just jump right to it. We're going to do a few examples, and we're going to be focusing right now on our range. So when we look at this, we're trying to figure out how high up does our graph go and how far down does it go. So we're going to always go bottom first and then top. So as we're looking at this graph, we want to see how far down does our graph go. So the lowest point that we get, okay, looks like right there. That is at a height, we're caring only about our y values, a height of 3 boxes up. So that is our very bottom of our graph, and because it's not an open circle, it's a closed point there, we're going to use a bracket at 3. That's the bottom of our graph, and then we're going to see how far up do we go. When we get to the very top right here, we're going to see what is that y value, and that is at 9. Okay, that again is a closed point, so this one happens to be both brackets. Let's look at our next function, which is called g of x. So on g of x, we're going to again do bottom to top. So we're going to see how far down does it go. Now we have a horizontal line here, so a lot of the points share that same bottom value, but that is down at -6. That's as low as it goes. So -6, it's included. It's a solid line or closed circles. So we're going to include -6, and then we're going to see how far up does this graph go. And it looks like after this point, there's nothing above it, so that's the top. And that height is actually at 0. It's not above or below the x-axis, so the height is 0. Again, a solid line, not a dotted line. So closed circles, so we got all included here. Okay, a few more examples. Here we're looking bottom to top on our function named r of x. So when we look at the bottom, we see an arrow that's continually pointing down. So there really is no bottom to this graph. It's going to go down forever. And so it's approaching infinity in the negative direction. This is something that we kind of struggled with a little bit with domain. A lot of you determined it was infinity, but forgot the negative. So it's down forever. Infinities are always going to have parentheses for the interval notation. So it's down forever, and then we're going to see how far does this graph go up. So we're going to look for the very, very top, And that top point, it's a close point at 7. So that's our very top. We'll use a bracket since it's a close point. Okay, bottom to top here. Let's take a look. Bottom. There is really no bottom. This graph, it is going to go right forever, but it's also going to go down forever. And then if we look for the top, this is like a special point, but it goes even higher over here. It's also going to go up forever. So for this one, for interval notation, we're going to say that it goes to negative infinity, it goes down forever, and it also goes up forever. Just a reminder that that's called all real numbers, which this is a symbol for that, but this is what we'd put for interval notation. Okay, bottom to top. I'm going to give you a moment to try to look at that yourself. How far down does this graph go? This is a 10 by 10 graph, 10 high, 10 low. So it goes all the way to the bottom of our graph. It's not an arrow there, it is just a point. So that is our bottom. Again, range is always bottom to top when we're figuring out our range. So it goes all the way down to negative 10. It's a close point there. Take a look at the max y value. How high up does that graph go? I'll give you a moment to take a look. What number do you think we should put after our negative 10? Good, it is up all the way at 7. That is our height. So for range, we only care about bottom to top. We do not care about left to right. That is the domain, okay? So you just need to go on Google Classroom. We have a worksheet that is just some practice with this idea, and that is all you're going to be submitting for this assignment on range, okay? Thanks for following along. Let us know if you have any questions.